It's good. We left off 39. He had said, he quoted Pasuk Mishlei, that Shlomo says he passed by a field, the field of a lazy person, and it was covered with thorns and briars. And the Chazal interpret the Pasuk referring to a person who studied Torah but did not apply himself sufficiently because he was lazy. And as a result of that, he assumes a position of giving halachic decisions, and his decisions are not correct, and he believes that they are correct, that he understands it sufficiently, but he doesn't understand it sufficiently. So he's metame yasator and metaris atome, uporitz gidron shel tamid chachomim, and he breaches the fences which were established by tamid chachomim. And what is it a derivative? It's a consequence of being lazy, not applying the person himself sufficiently. Remember, Mr. Glick told me many years ago, when he met Rabbi Aaron Kotler, he was in Far Rockaway. When he was living in Far Rockaway, Mr. Glick had a certain position on Israel, whatever the position was, and he presented it to Rabbi Aaron Kotler. Rabbi Aaron Kotler, if you read his Torah, you read his hashkafa, you read anything about him, his level of greatness and depth and breadth and knowledge was profound beyond. He was like a flamethrower. I mean, literally, he consumed you with the truth of his Torah. That was the power. Mr. Glick presented his position on whatever on Israel at that time, and Rabbi explained to him. And again, he came to him. You know, you can be as bright as, but it's not based on just on intellect. It's based on a whole perspective, based on who you are. So he told me, Rabbi looked at him and just walked away from him. Mr. Glick shared this with me. He looked at him. After he explained it, he kept arguing with him. He just walked away from him. I mean, today, when he told me the story, he really didn't appreciate who Rabbi Aaron Kotler was at the time. Years later, he appreciated who he was. He understood why he walked away from him. Now, I'm also a pretty smart guy. You know, I do deals, one of a kind of deals. I'm Mr. Diamond of the world. It doesn't make a difference who you are. That unless you apply yourself sufficiently to understand, you don't understand. And this is the field. Metaris atome, metame sator. Uperetz gidro shel tamid chachomim. You're breaching all the fences. I was once walking with Eli Wiesel a few years ago back in Israel, walking somewhere. It was about a 25-minute walk. So he said to me that the Vilna Gaon must have been a very sad, depressed person. That's what he said to me. So I said to him, why? He says, could you imagine to be 40 years confined to a courtyard and barely leaving his room, only involved with a small group of students? How could you not be depressed? That was his comment to me. So I explained to him that if you have an understanding of who the Vilna Gaon was, his level of understanding of truth, his joy of every moment of his involvement cannot be described. It's like a person's in the diamond mine mining 10,000 deep flawless carat diamonds every moment. I said, could a person be unhappy? Could a person be depressed? Being in that state is because anything else was less than that. This was our discussion. But a person who doesn't have but I was together with in the camp with this one. It's irrelevant who you're with. The question is who you are and who he is. It's like my Rashiv Zefraim Livrocha. There was a doctor in Baltimore. He was on East Utah Street. If you have years ago in the '60s, East Utah Street was the equivalent of Stone and Amora. It was the red light district of Baltimore, And there was a doctor, and he used to service all the yeshiva boys without charge. So, and he was my yeshiva's doctor. His name was Dr. Seidel. And he was a Lithuanian Jew. And my yeshiva used to have conversations with him. He wasn't observant. Came over in the early part of the 20th century. And he says to my Rosh Yeshiva, and he learned B'chavros with Rebbe Chana Wasserman as a teenager in Europe. What? The doctor was not religious, but as a teenager, as a young teenager, he learned B'chavros with Rebbe Chana Wasserman. Zechat Tzarech Livrocha. So he says to my Rosh Yeshiva, he says, you know, I had a better head than Rebbe Chana. That's what he said to my Yeshiva. He says, you know, he says, may be the case, but look where you are, look what he accomplished. You're down in East Utah Street in this forsaken location, and look what he accomplished. It's irrelevant what capacity you have. The question is how you apply it, right? How do you develop it? What initiative do you take? You chose this, he chose something else. Same idea. Well, I think I'm a pretty smart guy. It's not, it depends on how smart you are. The question is, to what degree did you apply yourself? You apply yourself properly, then your rulings are valid rulings. They're cogent rulings. They're based upon something. But if you don't, you think you know it, and you believe you know it, but ultimately, you psokim are not valid psokim. They're not valid.
Like a kid walking on the spot.
A little different. That was a sensitivity. That had to do with a sensitivity.
It's actually a sin to be proud of one's natural endowment, because that's a gift from God. It's what you do with it.
No question. No question. But I'm saying, but even a person, let's say, studied. How well did you study? You know, it's like a person, you meet somebody you hadn't seen for 40 years, and you were in the same class with him. And in class, he was a better student than you were, because he could answer the Rebbe's question immediately, and you couldn't. And then after he chose to go somewhere else, he didn't, and he still could answer the question, because he has a phenomenal mind. But he's still not a Talmud Chacham. He still doesn't have what it takes to know, to offer rulings. And he disagrees with the rabbi. Continue, I disagree with the rabbi. He gives the rabbi a hard time, whatever it may be. I'll tell you an interesting story. This person is known, today's man already in his upper 80s, to be Rabbi Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik, one of his best students, so to say. Best students. He's a wealthy man, this and that, and they speak, well, he's Rabbi Soloveitchik's student. Very wealthy man. And he says over things once in a while from Rabbi Soloveitchik. I know him slightly, and he once came to see Rabbi Pinto. This person came to see Rabbi Pinto on 63rd Street. We used to close the partition, if you remember, and people wanted I should be there at the time because they were afraid of Rabbi Pinto. He had a whole different persona in those years. And Rabbi Pinto speaking to him, whatever it is, and Rabbi Pinto looks him straight in the eye, and he asks him, do you wear tefillin every day? That's the question he asked him. Stone silence. Again, he asked the question 3 times. So he finally says, I miss once in a while. That was the person's answer. I do miss once in a while. So Rapin says, make sure never to miss. And that was the end of the conversation. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be the pride, the pride of Yeshiva University, Yitzchak Chanan. This and that, and this and that. How do you ever miss tefillin? He misses it once in a while. I guarantee he misses more than once in a while. Pinto, you know, he just said, make sure never to miss. So evidently, if he would have applied himself sufficiently and understand the value of tefillin, you know, how do you miss tefillin? Right? It's like, you know, it's like a person didn't breathe for 3 hours. Do you ever not breathe for 3 hours? If you understand the value of what tefillin are. So the sensitivities, to be able to appreciate the value of something, you have to be involved. If you're not involved, you lose that appreciation. To be continued. I was 14 years old when he passed away. Baron Kotler. 1962 he passed away. Okay? No, he was 74 years old. 73. Also in 70s. Early 70s. It was 73, 74 when he passed away.